and I know some of you are new, so I'd like to share some information about the people who are putting this event on. They are the leading provider of ground small package delivery services, providing overnight service to the U.S. and the rest of the world. Their slogan, when it absolutely positively has to be there over... TEDx. Not FedEx, not FedEx. TEDx. What do they deliver? Great talks. Do you think they'd like to hear one about an overnight delivery service? All right, I'll wing it then. Well, it's good to hear you laughing. I work at comedy clubs late at night or at corporate gigs in the afternoon, and I actually wasn't sure if people laugh before 10 a.m., so thank you for laughing. Feels good to laugh, doesn't it? Laughter's got to be one of the great feelings of the world, maybe the best feeling in the world. Well, except for sex. Laughter and sex, right? Those are up there, the best feeling sex. One guy agrees with me. He's the horny guy in the crowd. That's great. Laughter and sex are at the top. Don't try and combine them, ever. Don't try and never bring laughter into sex. That's not good, especially if someone is pointing. That's just rude at that point. Don't ever try. That is not paying it forward right there. That is our theme today, pay it forward, right? And I hope to leave you with this idea, that laughter is the purest form of paying it forward. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Whenever I hear people talk about pay it forward, one of the most common ideas I hear people use is when they're driving and they come up to a toll booth, right? What they'll do is they'll pay the toll for themselves and the person behind them. I think that's a fantastic idea. The more I thought about it, I realized that's not paying it forward. Why? Because that person's behind you. You're paying it backwards. That's the opposite of what we're going for today. That's why I do something different. When I pull up to a toll booth, I just tell the attendant, the guy behind me is going to pay my toll. That way I get to go free, and he gets the satisfaction of knowing that he actually paid it forward. We're both winners. As I peel away, I wave a little thank you, although they never seem to notice because they're scrounging around their car looking for more change. But I think they know that I'm appreciative. I can see that some of you are going to try this trick when you leave here. Good luck with that. But that feeling of wanting to try that is exactly what I'm talking about when I say that laughter is the purest form of paying it forward. Whenever someone tells you a joke, something that you laugh out loud about, what's the next thing you want to do? Tell that joke to someone else, right? You got to share it right away. You're so excited. You need to give someone else that same feeling that you had, right? Some people get so excited about sharing the joke that they forget to memorize the joke and they end up screwing it up, right? They forget the punchline, they blow it. This is what I call premature ejaculation. And it is a serious problem. Actually, it's pretty funny when people blow a joke, isn't it? Even then, at least you get to laugh at what a bad joke teller they are. Right? You get to point and laugh at them. That's always nice. What I'm saying is that any laughter works, right? It doesn't matter what you're laughing at, as long as you're laughing. It doesn't matter if you read a funny blog or you see a funny photo or a funny story. You got to share it with everyone you can, right? This is what most of the social networking sites are about. You found something funny or interesting, and now you got to share it with everyone you know, right? That's the first thing that you want to do. For example, this is the best time in the world for us to pay laughter forward. Why? If you have a funny video right now and you want to share it, you can do that on YouTube immediately, right? You can share it with the whole world immediately. That could go right up. You could share it the minute you see it. 20 years ago, you would have to send that video to Bob Saget and hope that he'd show it on Funniest Home Videos. Now, if you fall off a ladder, before you even hit the ground, people in Kamachka are laughing at you. This is a great age for paying laughter forward. Okay, so I think I've shown you that passing along laughter is a good thing, but I could see some of you asking, Steve, okay, doesn't it have to have more tangible value to be paying it forward? Well, first of all, don't ask questions while I'm talking. Secondly, yes, it does have to have value, and I think laughter really does have a value, a powerful value, a noble one. For example, I work at comedy clubs late at night. I can't tell you how many times I see people come in with the whole weight of the week on their shoulders. They've come in and they've been stressed out at work, and now they want to, 10 minutes later they're laughing, and they completely forget about everything that was bothering them when they walked in that door. Now, I'm not saying that it solved everything. When they leave that comedy club at the end of the night, their problems are still there. It hasn't changed everything, but it's changed something. It's given them a little release. Laughter is like a reset button for your soul. That's what it does for you, right? It's incredible. Laughter, it makes you, let go of everything, at least for a little bit. One of the things, I think we're on a different wrong slide that we're at, but so just pay attention to me and not the slide. Thank you. This is the best thing. It's like me blowing the joke. You can laugh at me now. I appreciate it. That's the best part, is that you get a little release for your soul. I know this firsthand because I'm not just a comic, I'm also a cancer survivor. In 2005, I was diagnosed with cancer and told that I might only have 5 years to live. 7 years later, I'm still here. People hear that and they always say, oh, it's because you're a comedian. Laughter is the best medicine. I've heard that a million times. Laughter is the best medicine. No, it's not. It's not the best medicine. You know what the best medicine is? Penicillin. Penicillin is the best medicine. It's ridiculous to think that laughter is the best medicine. If you think laughter is the best medicine, next time you see someone get hurt, like that kid in the video, instead of calling a paramedic, just go up and laugh at him. See if he feels better. He won't. In fact, he'll probably punch you in the face. And as you're holding your face in pain, tell yourself a joke. See if you feel better. You won't. See, laughter doesn't cure, but what it does allow us to do is forget. And I think that might be even equally powerful. I know that when I'm laughing, I don't have time to think that I still have tumors on my liver. You know, I can forget that for a little while. It's a pretty powerful thing. What I'm saying is that laughter is no laughing matter. Or maybe it is. I'm confusing myself now. My point is that it has a real value, a noble value, right? It can reset your soul. It can make you forget. Not forever, but for a moment. And sometimes that's all we need. Just a little new perspective to approach every problem we came in with a little differently. I'll tell you what I think. I've gone over to perform for the troops in the Mideast and Iraq and Afghanistan 7 times, and I'm going later again this summer. I've done shows on flatbed trucks, in cafeterias, bombed out palaces, in Saddam Hussein's palace, and out in the middle of the desert on a sunny day when it was 120 degrees. It's incredible to perform for those men and women. No one needs to laugh more than those men and women. After we do the shows, me and the other comics, the soldiers come up to us and they thank us for coming over and entertaining them. Seems silly. These men have risked their lives, have volunteered to risk their lives to defend our country, and they're thanking me just for telling some jokes. It doesn't seem like a fair trade. Sometimes, base commanders will come up and what they'll tell us, they'll say, thank you so much for coming over. You know, your performing here is actually saving lives. It always seems like a nice thing to say to us. You know, I know we're boosting morale a little bit by making them laugh, but saving lives, that seemed like an overstatement. Until the last trip I was on, a recent one. I was over there, I went over with 2 other comics, and one of the trips we took was to a small forward operating base. It's a pretty dangerous area. There was only 100 soldiers on this base. We landed at 9 a.m. They told us the show was going to be at 10 a.m. Then we met the base commander, and he showed us where we were going to be performing. It was a small concrete room about the size of a garage. There was no stage, no microphone, and the only light coming in was from a broken hole in the window that someone had bombed out. It looked like a terrible place to perform. Then the base commander told us that they really needed this show because just that morning, his whole group had come back from a mission at 5 a.m., and one of their soldiers had been injured. And just an hour before we arrived, that guy had been medevaced out to a bigger base. All of a sudden, this was seeming like the worst place in the world to try and make someone laugh. The base commander said not to worry because he was going to make sure the place was packed. He was requiring that everyone who was not on watch come to the show. Well, we thought, well, maybe these guys need to rest. Maybe they shouldn't come to a show. We suggested maybe that wasn't necessary. He told us it was necessary. At about 5 minutes to 10, all the soldiers started filing in. You could see how tired they were. Right? They came in. You could tell there was fatigue on their face. You could tell they were probably worried about their friend who was away. Some of them hadn't even showered after the mission. They just went right to their bunks. And now someone had woken them up, told them they had to come to this show. You could just see everything on their face, all their worry, everything about them. One person had an extra bad look to him, this one soldier. He had like instead of just a tired look, he had a blank look, like a lost stare, a dark and distant look, like he wasn't even seeing anything that was in the room. He was seeing something awful, some terrible thing he had seen before he ever walked through that door. It was so unnerving when we saw him that Scott, the other comic, and I were kind of taken aback when we first saw him. It was so unnerving to see him. We were taken aback, and to make light of the situation, because we were so scared of this guy, we said, he kind of looks like Francis from Stripes, if you remember Stripes. That's how scary the guy was. So we were like, oh my God, we gotta do something here. And it scared the other comic, Dan, so much that he told us he didn't want to perform. But then he said, you know what, I'll perform, I'll go first if I can host. And if I only can do 10 minutes, I'll go up first. Scott and I said, sure, because we didn't want to go up first in front of this crowd. At 10 o'clock, everyone was filed in. They'd filled every chair in the place. There was about 60 people on this base that only had 100 people. There were people sitting in the chairs, people standing in back, and now the whole floor was filled with soldiers just sitting there Indian style on the floor. There was only a 3-foot space where we could stand and perform. Dan, the first comic, went up and he started the show. He thanked the audience for being there. He started telling a story about the last base we were at, And while he was telling that story, I looked at all the faces in the crowd. You could just see the tense faces, the burnout looks they had on their face, and I told myself, when I get up there, I got to make them smile. I got to change that. Then I listened back to Dan, and Dan tried to tell a joke, got a little laugh, and then he said, okay, are you guys ready for your next comic? I was like, next comic? That's me. He hadn't even done 5 minutes. This audience wasn't warmed up at all. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Now I have to go up in front of this. They're not warmed up. They haven't changed their look at all. I got to go up. I've been on numerous television shows. I've been a comic for over a decade, and I've never been as nervous as I was to step up on that little area. Dan introduced me, and I walked through the soldiers, all on Indian style, sitting on the floor, stepped into that little clearing. I looked out at the audience, I smiled big, and I started my act. Incredibly, they loved it right away. I was so surprised. I have a lot of military jokes. I was in the Navy for a few years, so I have a lot of jokes about military life. They loved them. Then I started the jokes about that I tell at comedy clubs. They loved those even more. Everyone was having a good time, except for one guy, Francis. Everyone was laughing wildly except Francis. He still had that same stare. He was right in front of me. And though I was making everyone else laugh, I could only focus on him. He had that same troubled stare just looking at me, like he was seeing something awful still right now. It wasn't even like he was seeing me because he was somewhere else, somewhere where he had seen these awful things outside that door. I made it my mission to make him laugh. I forgot about the other 60 people in the room. I said, I'm going to make this guy laugh. I am going to crack him. I'm going to bring him to this room for a moment and take him away from whatever he's feeling. So I started acting sillier. I started making my gestures bigger. I started telling my dirty jokes, my clean jokes, my dumb jokes, my stupid ones, every one that I had to get this guy to laugh. And he wouldn't crack. I'd done so much different stuff that I actually went over my allotted time. Scott was in the back, the last comic, and he gave me the wind it up sign. I was kind of dejected. I'd made 59 people laugh, but I couldn't get that last one. But I still had my closer, my last joke. I save it as my last joke because it always works, even when nothing else does. I went into that joke confidently. I even looked over at Francis as if to say, all right, get a load of this. I finished that joke and it tore the room apart. Everyone was laughing, except for Francis. I had failed. I was dejected. I thanked the crowd, and as they were applauding for me, I introduced Scott. As he came up to the little clearing, I whispered in his ear, you've got to get Francis. Scott whispered back, I think he's beyond getting. I went off to the side and started watching the show. Scott went into his 30-minute act, and the crowd loved him right away, except for one guy. You know who. For 10 minutes, he just stared blankly at Scott, then 15, then 20, then 20. He cracked a smile. Just a little smile at first, and you could tell he was fighting it. He didn't want to let it go. And then it turned into a bigger smile as Scott piled on the punchlines. And then by the time Scott got near the end of his act, he was actually opening his mouth and letting out noise. Laughter. Real laughter. You could tell that he had forgotten how to laugh. This guy had seen so many bad things out there and had nothing to laugh at for so long that he had forgotten all the places outside all the awful things he saw. He had now been reminded of those places just by laughing. It was amazing to see. I had waited for that moment. I was watching his face while Scott was performing, waiting for that moment, praying for that moment. It was incredible to see when he finally let it go. When Scott got to his big closer, Francis was laughing as big as anyone else in the room. It was amazing. After the show, Francis came up and thanked us. He didn't talk to anyone on the way in, but he came up after the show and thanked us. And he didn't look like Francis anymore. He looked like a guy who just hit the reset button on his soul. Francis went back to his job, I'm sure the next day, with a new outlook, a new approach, and a reminder that there was something outside of everything that he was seeing. I went on from that base knowing that laughter does have the power to save lives. It's amazing. And it's not just me, not just comedians. The great thing about laughter is that you can all pass laughter on. You can hear a funny joke or see a funny video or something and pass it on. You can share that, and you might change someone's life, at least for a moment, or maybe longer. I hope I've shown you that laughter is the purest form of paying it forward, but being the first speaker, I also want to share a little more with you today, being the first speaker, before all the great speakers come today. Our theme is pay it forward, and I wanted to have a good pay it forward moment for you guys. I didn't know what that might be until I woke up this morning in my hotel room, and I came up with a great idea. Why not pay something forward to someone in this audience today? So what I did is I took a $100 bill, and I put it in an envelope, and then I got here before all of you and placed it under a random seat in this audience. So if you all reach under your seat, one of these chairs has an envelope with a $100 bill in it. If everyone could reach under. Anyone have it? I think it's over in this area. If there's a blank seat, look next to you. Have it back there, sir? Anyone? Yeah, but oh, right over here. This guy has it, sir. Open it up. Yeah, you got the $100 bill. Open it up, please, and show everyone. Show everyone, and as you can see, once you open it, you'll see that it is a $100 room service bill that I rang up at the Radisson last night. Yeah. I went through a lot of liquor bottles to rig that up. Costs a lot of money. As you can see, there's a couple title not revealed movies on there too. So, sir, I thank you so much for paying that for me. And don't forget, as part of this, you need to pay that forward. So the rest of you, I thank you, and I remind you as you leave here today and go on with the rest of your life, please pay your laughter forward. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks.